So that's it, huh? The Mandalorian's gonna save 2020. Okay. What's going on, you guys? James here with another real review, and today we're diving right into the Season 2 premiere of The Mandalorian right on Disney Plus, guys. I don't love The Mandalorian, but I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so I'm looking forward to this blowing my socks off, because I think now that they have their bearings underneath them, they can really expand this world, and the adventures of Mando and the Child will hopefully be even better than Season 1. The title of Episode 1 is The Marshal. It's a 54-minute episode, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and it's directed and written by Jon Favreau. Now, how I'm going to cover Season 2 is going to be interesting, because it's tough to talk about these episodes spoiler-free, but what I'm going to do is talk about it spoiler-free for the first few minutes, and then I will let you know when we're getting into spoilers. There's time codes down below, so it at least helps you stay on track, and if you haven't seen the episode yet, you can stop it at the spoiler-free part, and then when it gets into the spoilers and you've seen the episode, come right back and visit us. So I'm excited to talk about both spoiler-free and spoiler content for this episode. Now, before I get into that, guys, if it's your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James, where I dive into movies and TVs. We got early reviews, reactions. It's a ton of fun here. So if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, and tap on the bell so you don't miss out on anything new. I have my Mandalorian coverage going live every single Friday, so I'm super excited just to get into this season with each and every one of you. And if you haven't, smash that like button and get loud in the comments and let me know, guys, which moment in episode 1 was your favorite, which was your least favorite. Give me your review in the comments below. Alrighty, so let's get into the spoiler-free portion of the Season 2 premiere for The Mandalorian. So if you're a huge fan of Season 1, Season 2 picks up right where we left off. The opening shot is literally of Mando and the Child, so you know the direction which the season's going to take. It's going to be all about this duo, and I actually like that. I like the fact that it establishes it right away, and even the opening sequence was just about them. So it really just makes a lot of sense, and I love the consistency of The Mandalorian, and this Western approach is one of my favorite aspects to The Mandalorian. It's got a slowish burn to it, right? The episode is paced well, but it starts off a little slow. I mean, yes, there's action in the beginning, but you're getting a lot of story in between. So I really liked how this episode started and just how it kind of kept its consistency the whole way through. But honestly, this episode just really blew me away with its opening. It's very strong. Now, we just talked about the pacing of the episode a little bit, but let's dive into that even more. This is a 54-minute episode. Usually Mandalorian episodes are no more than 45 minutes long, but this is not only a long episode, nearly 1 hour. This is one of the longest episodes. I think it's the longest episode of The Mandalorian, and that's wonderful to see. I think what I wanted more from Season 1, and one of my bigger complaints, was we didn't get enough time with this story in between episodes. I mean, we really were just crying out for more content. I know I was. Sometimes some episodes felt a little too short and they could have used 20 more minutes. And Jon Favreau said, you know what, we're going to give you nearly an hour, and it's not only going to be a long episode, again, it's going to be the longest of the series. And that's so fantastic. The extra time really aids the storytelling, which is much needed as we get later on into this episode, because there's one key moment, I think, where I was super impressed with how Jon Favreau handled all this. He did more of show, don't tell. I cry out for this all the time in movies and TV, but he allowed there to be narration. However, you were getting actual scenes of what he was talking about. It wasn't just one shot of this man giving you an explanation. So kudos, Jon Favreau. It made the episode much better. And technically speaking, guys, this episode is just as quality as Season 1. I love the fact that Jon Favreau and the team developed this cool little panoramic set that they shoot on, so they can go into multiple environments and film plenty of content in one go. So I do like the fact that we get this vast sense, but there's still something so beautiful about practical effects, especially in Hollywood today. So them using practical effects, prosthetics, lots of real life models, it was so good to see, and it immersed me into this episode like not many episodes of TV have, to be honest with you. And I mean, yes, Star Wars is a ripe universe for all of this, right? But in this premiere, I mean, I was blown away by all the makeup work. Everything just felt alive. All the sets were awesome. I mean, my goodness, sometimes my breath was taken away and I was speechless. But then you also have awesome costume design. So everything felt very rich. And then there's the score. Y'all, Ludwig Göransson is one of the best composers in Hollywood today. And his theme here, fantastic, yes. But there is this one particular moment where we're in this town, which we'll talk about in a little bit for the spoiler portion of this review, where it just goes full on Western vibe. I mean, the guitar, everything, all the string instruments, it was just absolutely wonderful to see. So Ludwig, man, I just can't wait to see you become even bigger than you are now. So his score here is not only trademark Mandalorian, but it's just fantastic. So yes, Season 2, Episode 1 is incredibly strong. I love it. It's one of my favorite episodes of The Mandalorian, actually. And it really just carries over all of what we loved in Season 1 and brings it over here to this season. And it is actually expanding upon it in a way. It feels so good. The pacing was great, and we need longer episodes like this because that's why this episode was so effective, is that it had room to breathe. So there you have it, guys. That is the end of my spoiler-free discussion. We're getting into spoilers next. So if you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Tap on the bell so you stay up to date with next week's review. It's going to be so much fun. Alrighty, y'all. Well, here we go. It's time for spoilers. Alrighty, that should have been enough time for you guys to get a spoiler warning, so let's get into my first point. Guys, references, references, references. Man, every fan of the original trilogy is going to love this Season 2 premiere. The Star Wars fan in me was just really giddy when they mentioned Tatooine, and then we found out they're going to Tatooine, and not only just going to Tatooine, we're going to explore an undiscovered mining town? Come on, that's amazing. Getting to really go and uncover Mos Pelgo, the old mining town I just talked about, shows that this series does what I've been wanting more of in the Star Wars universe, which is just expanding the lore and bringing to us what we should have been getting in this new trilogy, honestly, this sequel trilogy, which is an expansion of the new. And yes, I love the ode to the old, but Mos Pelgo, I didn't know anything about Mos Pelgo. I knew about Mos Eisley, but getting to see how these people were affected by the post-Death Star, the second Death Star explosion and destruction, really just kind of, I don't know, it makes me happy to know that there's more Star Wars to tell. So it makes me not only happy as a fan, but as someone who understands that there's always more to explore in this universe. Yeah, it just puts me head over heels for this episode. We also get a glimpse at an old Mandalorian. Well, not the Mandalorian himself, just his armor, Boba Fett. When I saw his helmet, guys, I understand the argument against Boba Fett, but I'm a fan, okay? I like Boba Fett. I thought he was intimidating as a kid, and he's still so awesome as an adult. So seeing his helmet and his armor showcased was fantastic, but again, it's not Boba Fett. It is this guy named Cobb Vanth, played by Timothy Olyphant, one of my favorite working actors today. He's incredible. If you haven't watched Justified, do it. It's one of my favorite shows of all time, but I love Timothy Olyphant's approach to this character. It is very much a typical ordinary dude who's a gunslinger. He's very talented, clearly. He's a marksman. However, he didn't have what he needed to free his people, which was the Mandalorian armor. This is the man I talked about earlier that is giving the narration that allows us to see what it is that his people went through, and they were oppressed by a mining collective is what they called it. So after the destruction of the Death Star, we get this little mining town, Mos Pelgo, destroyed and also oppressed by this mining collective. They scrap them for resources. They're basically taking over the town, and it really destroys the core of this town, which is really just hardworking blue-collar individuals. And I love the fact that the Marshal, they deem him the Marshal, Cobb Vanth, is just here, and he's ready to not lay down the law, but just protect his people. So it's fantastic. Timothy Olyphant was an excellent addition to The Mandalorian, and I hope we see him down the road because Cobb Vanth and The Mandalorian have awesome chemistry. I mean, Pedro Pascal is a fantastic actor. He can work with anyone at this rate, but him and Timothy Olyphant, it's a dream come true. Oh, and the last reference I think that we're going to talk about right now, Tuskens. We got Tuskens. I'm not going to make the noise. You thought I was going to do it, but I'm not doing it. It's cool that we got Tuskens, though. I mean, this is just bringing everything full circle for me as a Star Wars fan. So, yes, I love that they're introducing us to some old references. However, we're getting a lot of new in this episode as well. Alrighty, so let's move on, guys. I love the pacing of this episode. Now, we just talked about that in the spoiler-free portion, but the storytelling element it introduces is really interesting, and that is one of unification. We have two tribes, two people that are not in agreement with one another, Tuskens and this town of Mos Pelgo. They hate each other, right? However, they have to come together to defeat one common enemy that could take them both out, which is this huge crate dragon. First of all, the CG work on the crate dragon, excellent, man. But here, it just paints a larger picture of maybe the society we live in today. So I love the fact that Jon Favreau was able to weave this into the story, and it would not have worked if this episode was not 54 minutes. And then the build-up. Listen, getting nearly an hour with The Mandalorian was what we needed, because if it didn't have that time in that room to breathe, this final battle would not have had as much significance. There was a cool little build-up. We got to see characters get developed in the short amount of time we saw them on screen, and eventually when they take down the Krayt Dragon with the Tuskens and the people of Mos Pelgo, boy, you feel like celebrating. And I know I did. I kind of cheered a little bit, because it was just such a great culmination of what this episode was building on, which is making friends in desperate times. And guys, it worked. Also, seeing Cobb Vanth and the Mandalorian kind of fly alongside one another, it was fantastic, guys. It was cool to see old Boba Fett armor next to new Mando armor. Just so good. Now, there is one thing in this episode, if you're a fan of the child, we don't see him kicking any butt, but we do see how much Mando still cares for his companion. This episode makes it clear that Mando's mission is really to go ahead and bring the child to his people, reunite him. This is his journey. This is his end game, in a sense. So I love the fact that, both of them are going to spend a lot more time together without, outside interference. I'm sure we're going to get reunions with Greef Karga and Cara Dune back in the fold as well, but honestly, it's going to be more so about the child and Mando, their adventures together. This premiere really gave me all I needed to know that I'm 110% on board with season 2. And then, guys, right at the end, we get our first glimpse at the Muera Morrison in The Mandalorian. Now, listen, it took me a couple of seconds. I rewound it, paused it, and I thought, oh my god, it's him. So if you don't know who he is, he played Jango Fett in Attack of the Clones, episode 2. But the thing is, people are speculating whether or not he will be playing Boba or not. I mean, he is playing Boba, I'd imagine. So yeah, dang, Boba survived? I'm excited to see what's next. Season 2, episode 2 premieres next week, and you can expect my full review for that as well. So guys, if you haven't already, get subscribed to the channel below, hit that red button, tap on the bell, and if you haven't already, go ahead and smash the like button and get loud in the comments and let me know, guys, which moment was your favorite from episode 1. Man, what a premiere. This was so fun. I'm glad we get to talk about it together, and I can't wait to do it again next week. Alrighty, y'all. Well, I'm gonna go find my child, or the child. Well, I don't have a kid. Anyway, alrighty, y'all. Again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening.